from Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defend Systems, Brent Fiddler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey guys, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. Bringing Tom with you as always. Today, I'm excited to introduce you guys to our guest. I was introduced to Ben through a mutual friend, I don't know, probably within the last year, I would say. Ben Tracy is with us today. He's with Safe Social Network, as well as Haven, which is a different company and platform all around keeping kids safe online and actually educating parents too on how to keep their kids safe online. Ben, I'll let him tell you more about it in just a minute, but Ben talks to schools and communities all over the U.S. Every week. It's probably pretty exhausted most of the time, if I had to guess, as much traveling as you do. But I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So let's get into high level, first of all, kind of just give us an intro about what you do. And then obviously I know your story because we sat down and had coffee, and I think it's a really cool, very interesting story about how you got where you are. But kind of tell everybody about high level what you do on both sides of the house. Now that you just told me about Haven before we hit the record button, and then we'll get into the background of kind of how you all got started.
Yeah. So I go to schools around the country and I talk about online safety, digital citizenship, and responsible social media use. Everything from online predators to cyberbullying, kids unknowingly getting fentanyl through social media. And now with AI and some of the things that kids are exposed to on there with voice cloners and nude image generators, and kind of the way that impacts the school environment as well as individual families and children. Got it.
And one thing I found really interesting when we sat down and talked is that you have different programs for different audiences, right? So like it doesn't matter. I say it doesn't matter. Of course it matters, but obviously the program you're going to go in and do for a bunch of high schoolers is not the same program you're going to go in and do for third graders.
Right.
But you have programs for all the above, plus faculty, plus parent community, right? I mean,
yeah, most schools will break it down. You know, if it's a K-12 school or district, 3 to 5, 6 to 8 high school parents, and then about half of them will do staff presentations as well.
Okay, yeah, I found that really interesting that you hit like every part. And Tom was just saying too, right before we hit the record button, where were you 20 years ago? Because the newest thing you've launched, let's just touch on that real quick. It does not involve you going and speaking, but it's close to near and dear to your heart for the same reason you do what you do for a living, which is help keep kids safe online. Talk to us a little bit about the Haven that you launched.
Yeah, so I view it as an extension of what I'm already doing, right? I do these in-person presentations, and I talk to parents about keeping the phones out of the bedroom at night and making sure their kids can come to them and modeling appropriate behavior themselves, which I think, you know, I like to say in my parent presentations, a good starting point with everything that I talk about is looking themselves in the mirror. And so Haven is an extension of that in terms of, I'll talk about, hey, this app Snapchat is dangerous and you should make sure your kid is not sharing his location on that app. But how do you actually go about doing that? And, I've spent like 7 years trying to find these resources. Surely somebody's making videos, putting them out there, making it easy for parents to find. And I wasn't really finding a lot of it. And so I decided that we should create something. And so that's exactly what it is step-by-step video tutorials, questions for them to ask their kids, to ask other parents, because a lot of parents feel like, well, if I don't give my kid a smartphone or Roblox or Snapchat, they're going to be missing out on some social interaction. So it's really about building a community as well.
Okay. So, and I guess it's like an online library, video library.
Yeah. Basically updated monthly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's usehavensafety.com. It's $9 a month or $100 a year. And it's updated as the apps change and the features change. Cause I think I'm unique in that I go into the schools every day and I hear what these kids are, I'll just ask them after the presentation. I'll say, hey, if there's something you think I should know that would help me do my job better, just line up and tell me what it is, and they do. And so I get that real-time feedback every day, and so we want to try and turn that around and tell their parents and their educators about it as quickly as possible. That's
brilliant, actually, because a lot of, if somebody else tried to do what you're doing and they're just going, even if they work in a school, well, you're just looking at one sect, like one group of students in that one environment, in that one town, in that one sect of society, if you will, right? Because it's going to be very different, probably, what the kids in, middle of nowhere Utah are into versus downtown Chicago. I would imagine those are different, but you're getting them all. I mean, by asking feedback from these kids in every environment you go in, you're probably getting, I don't know, because I don't know if we have anything to compare it to, but I would say you're getting as wide a swath as you could possibly get as far as real life intelligence, what we would call it, probably.
And the kids are going to know more. I mean, they're the first ones that see this when it comes out. Right. I mean, as parents, we don't see all of these different things they use. And before we get too far in, I mean, to what you're doing to help and prevent and do everything, just the problem that it is. And it hit me. I have 2 kids now. They're 20 plus, but I never realized, we didn't grow up in that age, so we didn't know that pressure that they're under.
Yep.
When you said turn their locations off, and I'm not even talking about sexual predators or anything to that effect, just the mindset on kids today because of that one feature. They know where every one of their friends are. If I say, hey, where's so-and-so today? The first thing they do is pull out their phone and look and go, oh, they're traveling on highway such and such right now.
Right.
That's weird.
Tell me about it. I was like, you don't, everybody knows your business, therefore the microscope is on you, and I can't imagine what that's doing pressure-wise to their minds.
Totally. I mean, yeah, on one hand, there's like the physical security concern with that, but then there's also like the mental health side of it. It's like, if you and I weren't invited to some gathering over the weekend, we find out about it on Monday, and it is what it is, right? Well, these kids are watching it in real time. They're sharing location with all their friends. Well, these 4 other kids are all at this person's house, and I'm sitting at home by myself watching them, and just to your point, the pressure and the mental health challenges that come along with that.
That blew my mind more than the other even, and what it did. I mean, and I discovered it. We were traveling home back from vacation on the interstate, and my son goes, oh, so-and-so's only about a quarter mile behind us.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you know that? And he was like, well, we all share our location, so we all know. And I was just like, there's good in that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and relating this to what you do, I think is like, how many parents post, hey, we're in wherever we are on vacation, and all of their Facebook friends or people who are looking at their Facebook who may not be their friend, but the parent themselves has their account set to public. Well, what does that mean if you're posting that you're in Florida? Well, that means your house in Brentwood is empty.
Yeah, we preach that regularly with our stuff.
Yep, but goes in one ear and out the other for most of them too. But it's like, and you wonder why your house got burglarized.
Yeah,
go figure.
I mean, some people can't help it.
Sure.
Some of the football players think they have schedules. It's easy to know where they are and where they aren't, which means.
Well, that's a thing right now, right? That's a whole different topic. But a lot of them are now hiring security to sit at their house while they're playing games, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I love your story. So let's talk about kind of your background, what you were doing, what you were going to do, obviously, because I think that's pretty interesting from the politics side of things, and then how that launched into kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I started running and working on political campaigns when I was right out of high school and through college, and did well with that and graduated from college and got a job within about a year of being of graduating from college to be a personal assistant to a former governor in Illinois. And on my first day on this job, somebody went through my Twitter account from when I'm like 17 years old. Right when I first got onto social media, they combed through like 5,000 of my tweets, found a few jokes that I'd made, tweeted back at friends years before, screenshotted them, created a completely anonymous, fake Twitter account, took these screenshots, started tweeting them out and tagging the Chicago political press, who then they became aware of it. And so long story short, I get fired from this job on my very first day. I'm in the car with the governor as it happens. It's front page Chicago News. And I'm 23 years old, right? And I'm the kid who did everything right, college athlete and double major and student senate, all the things they tell you to do. And here I am, and I'm like, wow, I've lost this great opportunity. And, what do I do next? I'd never heard of cancel culture at the time, but that's basically what it was. Obviously, I'd never had a speaker come in, or, I didn't know anyone who'd navigated a situation like what I was what I found myself navigating. And then so a little while later, I did my college athletic department. My college track coach calls me and he's like, hey man, come in and tell these guys the story. And, maybe you can help them avoid the same fate. And then apparently I did okay. The athletic director sat in on it. He said, come back and talk to the whole athletic department. And then it just kind of snowballed from there with college athletes. And I'm 23. I'm like, hey guys, I was in your seat a year ago, And then a couple high schools started wanting it. And I was going in, I was just talking about that. It's like, hey, this stuff could cost you an athletic scholarship, a job, what have you. And then these kids are lining up after every one of the talks that I was doing. They're taking their iPhone out of their pocket, putting it in my face and going, can you help me with this? Or, will you talk about this? They're showing me their screen. And it's these predators sending these high schoolers, pictures and messages and videos. It's the cyberbullying. It's girls telling me the more time, Instagram was the popular app at that time. The more time I spend on this app, Instagram, the worse I feel about myself. And I think it's somehow related to the time and the content that I'm consuming on this app, Instagram. And so why don't you talk about that? And, it seems so obvious now, but 8 years ago, there wasn't this national conversation around screens and social media and the dangers to teenagers. So hearing those stories, and I didn't have anything else to do, so I figured, maybe I can use my story for good. And so that's what I spent the last 8 years doing.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. They're so exploited right now through it. We had a case here that we had to work that was a college athlete who was looking at being recruited by a specific school. Don't know if it was another school that did it or whatever to influence that, but basically fished him online and got him to say some things, and then boom, there it came. And
yep.
Of course, they wanted money to put it away, but there's so many openings in this to so many things.
Yeah.
It's a gateway.
Totally.
And I'm anxious to hear, what measures you have to put in place for that, and other ways that is affecting kids that we don't even know about right now.
Totally.
That we haven't thought about because we're old geezers in the technology
world. Speak for yourself. Oh, in the technology world, yeah. Don't you own a technology company?
It's in the name.
Okay.
I have people.
Security technology. That's true. That's right. You have a whole department for that, right?
I go find it.
You just sign checks. Yeah.
And go from there.
No, you're right. You brought up Roblox. My kid she is all about some Roblox. But she's very good with the safety aspect. She's smart, and she's, not knowing, of course, at the time that she got into it, which was years ago, like it just seemed so innocent, right?
Well, and a few years ago it was.
Yeah. Right. And now it's like crazy, all the stuff that I'm reading about with that. But, I guess it's a balance really between, protecting your kids, right? But also, you don't want to be a helicopter parent per se, and to some degree, right? You want them to learn the world, but the world now, and of course, I'm sure our parents said the same thing. The world now is I think it's vastly different. I don't think it was that different for us versus our parents like it is now for us versus our kids, just because of technology and mainly because of social media.
It's just easier to access now.
Right.
The world hasn't changed. There's nothing new under the sun. There's problems were there when we just didn't have the information so fast and at our fingertips. We had to be creative back in our day of finding something. Now it's instant.
Well, human nature, I don't think has changed. Read the Bible. I mean, it's like
there's evil.
That's right. I mean, it sounds like modern day society in many places, and that 2,000 years ago, whatever. So human nature hasn't changed, but I think the ability to exploit it certainly has.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's talk about your run, which I find fascinating because I don't run unless somebody's chasing me or got my wallet, or in law enforcement unless I was having to chase somebody, of course, which I was never the fastest guy in the bunch anyway. But talk about that and kind of what led to that and why you did it and just the whole story. I want you to just take it away.
Yeah. So I ran across the country, like Forrest Gump style, every single step across the country. I started in San Francisco and I finished in Ocean City, Maryland. And so the route was U.S. Highway 50, which is nicknamed the loneliest road in America. Because, I mean, out west, there's truly nothing out there. I mean, I went from Fallon, Nevada, which has an Air Force base, to Grand Junction, Colorado, which was probably, I don't know, it was probably 30 or 40 days. And I don't think I went through a town that had more than 3,000 people in it. I mean, there were times where you'd see the next town was 100 miles up the road through Nevada, and so I did. It was 120 marathons in 125 days, and I spoke in about 50 schools along the way, and did media interviews, and then I also interviewed the parents of children along my route who died from something social media related. So kids who took their own lives after falling victim to these predator sextortion scams, cyberbullying, kids who unknowingly got fentanyl through social media, kids who did choking challenges that they learned about on YouTube and TikTok. And so, trying to get those stories out there because this stuff is far more common than what people realize. So interviewing the parents, we had the names of the children on the back of the RV, and so people will ask me a lot, well, how'd you find the motivation to do it? And it's like, well, the RV would go up like 5 miles at a time. And so I would run up to the back of it and they would have the Gatorade or Uncrustable or whatever. And you see those names, and then I'd connect to the internet on our Starlink, and all the texts would start coming through, and it's the parents of those children and their grandparents and their siblings, and it's like it actually wasn't all that hard to find the motivation. And I also felt like, well, I couldn't quit on them, when they allowed me to use their name and their story. That was very motivating to me as I did the journey every day.
What drove you to that? What made you decide, hey, I want to do this? Obviously, you have a big heart and you care.
Yeah, it was really two things. One, I kind of felt like I'd plateaued in a way in my space, in that I'd done as many speeches as there are school days. It's like, well, what do you do past that? And then at the same time, I was doing these ultra marathons, and it started with 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathon, and I was just going up in distance. And I realized the longer I went, the better I was. The 5Ks, I could maybe place in the top 5 at the turkey trot, but if it's like, hey, go run for 10 hours straight and see who's the last person standing, I do pretty well at that. Right. And so I thought maybe there's a way to combine these two things, and then the family stories, and it's like maybe I can stop at schools along the way, and also just showing these kids you can overcome a mistake, because so many of these kids who have taken their own lives feel like they can't move beyond this thing that is, in the grand scheme of things, it's just like this tiny thing that at the time seems like the worst thing ever, right? Yeah. And I had something similar happen, but I have the benefit of time and perspective that these kids don't, and also showing them what you can do when you get off your phone and actually go outside and do something physical. So it's kind of a combination of all those different things.
Right. And in suicide, that's the worst. I mean, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no going back on that. But how can it affect other people, which obviously is what it did for you, and took a passion to it.
Yeah, I found that fascinating. Talk a little bit, and I know because I asked you, but about the logistics of this, right? And you brought up an RV. You can't drive an RV while you're running.
Yeah.
So plus you had documentation of it. I mean, so you had help, a little bit of help.
Yep.
So
yeah, I had two really good guys with me, both Nashville guys. One was doing the photos and videos and podcast, setting up the podcast to do things like this and, the interviews with the families. And then the other guy was driving and cooking. And so the three of us on a 30-foot RV for 4 months, just making our way through the campgrounds of America was pretty interesting.
I bet logistically it'd be a challenge to even plan it.
Yeah. People are like, well, how'd you plan the route? I was like, well, all three of us are idiots, so we figured it's one road the entire way, right? With the exception of like the first 100 miles. So San Francisco to Sacramento was a different route, but Sacramento to Ocean City, Maryland was all U.S. Highway 50. It's like, as long as we're on 50 going east,
we're going to get there at some point.
Exactly.
How many miles? I guess did it depend on the day? How many miles you were running?
No, I did a marathon, so 26.2 every day. 120 marathons in 125 days. And I wanted to do 120 and 120 days. And I think I could have, but we were getting ahead. So I was planning schools along the way. So I'm going to go speak in this town. Well, I had built a few days in there to where I figured I would get hurt and I'd have to take some time off. Well, I hadn't. And so we were way ahead and we're having to drive that RV an hour and a half back to speak at a school. And it just logistically didn't make sense. And, those RVs, you never know when they're going to break down too. So it's like, let's limit how many miles we're putting on that thing. And so that's why I took the days off, was just really to let some time pass. But yeah, I ran the first 60 in a row from San Francisco to Dodge City, Kansas before I took a day off.
Has anybody else done this?
Yeah, about 300 people in history.
Okay. That long? I mean, that many in it?
Well, the shortest route, my route was 3,125 miles. The shortest route is like 28 or 2,900. And so everybody does it a little bit differently. Some people go east to west. I went west to east. And anyone you talk to has some opinion of like how, like you should have ran the other direction, or, you should have ran at a different time of year. It's like, if you're going to go for 4 months, you're going to run through some stuff that you don't want to run through regardless. But as I was researching it, most people who failed in the desert in Nevada or New Mexico, however they went, or in the Rocky Mountains. So I figured, well, hell, if I'm going to fail, I would rather fail a month into this thing instead of 3 months. Sure. That's why I did. That's why I went.
What time of year was it?
I started in August and I finished in December.
Okay.
So yeah, the desert in Nevada in August probably wasn't my best idea, but I made it.
Well, you got out of the way first.
Yeah, exactly.
Has anybody else done it the other way meaning that they were running a marathon a day? Like that many days in a row?
Some people have went longer. Like I think their record is like 48 days. So that guy was doing like 60 or 70 miles a day. But I was also speaking in schools too and doing media. And, there were days where I'd finish the marathon, get on that RV, shower while we were driving to the school, and then pop in there and do a speech. And also this is kind of funny. We would reach out to the schools along the route. Well, a few of them told me, we don't know. We can't commit a school day to this because we don't know that you're going to make it, which I mean was fair. But every one of those schools, I went in there, buzzed that little thing. Is Mr. Johnson in here? I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I made it.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Yeah. Doubt me. How dare you, right?
What was one of the strangest things along the way that it occurred, whether accident, failure?
Oh man, there were so many. I mean, just every day there was something, I think most of the funniest stuff was the RV, like stuff that would break on the RV. We were in this little town called Baker, Nevada, right on the Nevada-Utah border. And our slide on the RV, will make it bigger. Well, that thing stopped working. But it was stuck out. And we're calling everybody and nobody can help us. And there's no RV man within like 3 hours and we can't drive the thing. And so we're just relegated to like YouTube videos. And so we figured it out. We got a Sawzall. We pushed this thing back in. Somehow we managed to still get out there and do the marathon. Then I get out there and there was a wildfire in California. So all the smoke is blown. So I can't even see anything the entire day.
Oh my gosh.
And then, so the next day I think actually the same day, the door to the RV stopped working. And so we're having to, like, it was just locked and we couldn't, we tried every which way and the thing wouldn't open. So we're climbing through the window to get in and out of this RV, which is pretty high up. And then, so I had a speech in Salt Lake City, and man, it is the nicest private school. It's like these car lines is, it's like the Innsworth in the NBA, it's like a, Escalade and, and all these parents lined up. And so we roll up to do the speech, and the whole morning car line's out there, and we're in this RV that the door won't open. And so the three of us are jumping out the window of this Raft RV that has my name all over it. So that was a funny story for sure. Yeah, and then just the people you meet in campgrounds. I didn't realize how many people actually live in campgrounds. Oh yeah. That was interesting.
I bet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. We bought a travel trailer during COVID, like most of the world did. We did it a few times, and yeah, that was, it stressed me out more than anything. Just the setup and it's that life is not for everybody. Some people love it. I mean, there's entire YouTube channels out there, with people that are just on the road in an RV. But how long was it taking you, like average? I guess it depends on several things, right? But I mean, what like how many hours a day were you running to run 26.2 miles? I mean, how long was that taking?
Yeah, my pace or my average marathon was like 4 hours and 42 minutes, I think, and which is like 10:45 mile pace. So I was moving the whole way, a lot of the people who've done it have walked, you look at their pace and it's like 16, 17 minutes. Like, yeah, you were walking.
Yeah.
And that was my plan originally, that I would walk all the uphills, run the flats and the downhills. Well, on day 3, I get to the first uphill and I'm like, man, this is so boring. This is going to take forever. And I'm like, I may fail, but I'm not going to walk. I'm just going to keep moving. And so that's what, I never walked again after that. So yeah, it was like 10:45 mile pace.
And the fact that you never got injured is
luck.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a testament to taking care of yourself too, I guess. And obviously you breezed past this and we never went back, but college athlete, track. So like you're obviously a runner.
Yeah, but I was a sprinter.
Oh,
I'd never run distance in my life until after college.
So
wow.
And then after college, you just started doing what? Just messing around with like 5K?
You know what it was? I got fat, and then I was going and speaking, and I was lifting. But you've been in all these hotels. It's like, you get dumbbells that go up to 25 pounds, like one treadmill from 1995. It's like, what am I going to do with this? So then I'm like, well, I could at least bring a pair of running shoes and just go run outside. So that's how it started. It was after I was already doing the speaking stuff. And it's like, sign up for the turkey trot, and then the next one is like the 10K for St. Patrick's Day or whatever. And I mean, that's literally how it started.
So training wise though, I mean, from a physical standpoint, I know several people that have trained up for marathons and there's a lot that goes into conditioning your body for that kind of abuse, if you will. I mean, your knees alone, right? I mean, obviously footwear. I'm curious there too. I had a good friend that he ran just distance for years. The amount of shoes he went through was flabbergasting. I mean, it makes sense, but I never thought about it. Like,
yeah, I went through 11 pair.
Okay,
it's about 300 miles a pair.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing too. Just taking care of yourself. But I've never been much of a runner. I mean, I just wasn't my thing. I ran cross country one year. I don't really know why.
As you can tell, I ran cross country in Ethiopia back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So there's an incredible. There's a lot of stories from your run that we talked about, but there's one in particular about the finish and the shirt or the jersey that you told me about. Hit on that.
Yeah, this dad, his name's Chris Diddier, had lost his son to fentanyl that he got through social media at 17 years old. Kind of your perfect all-American kid, athlete and top of his class and Eagle Scout, perfect kid. Thought he was getting a Percocet, and he got a counterfeit fentanyl pill. They targeted him through social media using, some of the features that the location sharing and this feature that makes it easy to add a bunch of people in the same school or community. And anyway, so he lost his son. And so he started advocating for this stuff. And, he wasn't, I ran through, he was from Sacramento, but I ran through there, but he was out of town when I came through. So he said, I'll just meet you in the desert in Nevada somewhere. And so he came out there, and, we did the interview, and he goes, I want to run 10 miles with you. And he brings 2 soccer jerseys, and it was his son's home and away jersey, and he wore one, and he asked me if I would wear the other one, and so we do the run. It's literally the 2 of us out there in the desert, and no one else out there, 115 degrees, and we're running along, and I mean, he was struggling too. He was not a runner either, but he just wanted to do it, and tell me all about his son and fentanyl and how prevalent it is on social media and so forth. And so then we finished the marathon, and he signs. We had Zach Diddier, Forever 17. He signs next to his kid's name and writes his son's favorite Bible verse on there. And so I go to give him the jersey back, and he says, well, actually, I'd rather you keep it. He knew that I was speaking in the schools along the way. And he's like, why don't you just get up there and wear my kid's jersey while you share his story? I think that would make it super impactful. And so obviously that's what I'm going to do, And he goes, and I'll see you at the finish line. So when I ran the rest of the way, and that was day 11, I had 109 more marathons to run. And not just Chris Diddier, but all those other parents, every day they're texting, they're calling, they're, sending me some Bible verse or a David Goggins video or, whatever it is. And sure enough, he traveled from Sacramento 5 days before Christmas to Ocean City, Maryland, and ran with me. And there's this really awesome picture that it's the 2 of us walking through the sand, putting our feet in the Atlantic Ocean with the 2 soccer jerseys on, each of us holding an American flag. And he texted me a week after I finished, and he had taken the flag back to Sacramento, and he had put it on Zach's grave. And his text just said, I hope you'll continue to share his story so that no other parent has to. And it's just this beautiful picture and moment, and just a awesome guy who's trying to help other keep kids safe. So
wow, I want to back up on that just a second. Fentanyl easy to get on social media.
Yep.
I'm an old fogey. Are they just buying drugs on there? How is that?
Yeah, they primarily use Snapchat, which is one of the most popular ones. And so the concept of Snapchat is that everything disappears, right? So these dealers will go, they'll create they'll add a bunch of kids in the same school, right? So then you'll see, okay, well, Brink's friends with this person, and Ben's friends with this person, so it must be fine for me to be friends with them, right? And then they'll post their menu using, coded language and emojis and acronyms, and, they'll say it's Adderall or Xanax or Percocet or cocaine, and often now, it's counterfeit fentanyl.
That's a whole nother aspect.
Yeah. And then obviously the kids respond, and then they go just to a good old fashioned drug deal, right? Just gonna be
totally. Well, and because of the location sharing, the entire, not just a conversation and transaction, delivery. I mean, you'll say, okay, I want a Percocet, or I want a Xanax, and I can't sleep. It's 10 o'clock at night, and 5 minutes later, that person's outside the house. Kid runs out, grabs it, runs back in. I mean, it can all happen in a matter of minutes.
And it's like you said, this was a great kid, the dad that ran with you, not a regular drug user, not a bad kid, not anything, just a one-time or very rare,
Yep.
I don't know, occurrence.
Yep.
And this happened.
Exactly.
Again, a permanent.
His dad told me that an average of 22 high school students a week in America die from fentanyl, and primarily they're getting it through social media. And the Colorado Attorney General came out with a report that said it's as easy for a teenager to get fentanyl on social media as it is to order a pizza or call an Uber.
I believe that. I believe that for a couple of reasons. One, I have kids. Number two, I see social media. Number three, you're booked nonstop all over the U.S. to talk about this stuff, which means it's real. It's a huge problem. And there is obviously stuff that can be done about it because you're spreading the good word and telling people what to do. If you had you pick either one piece of advice or top three that you think people should know, like from one of your talks, I guess, whether you're talking to a kid or a parent or both, I guess it would be, I don't know, that's kind of all over the board a little bit, but what would you say? Let's go top three. What are the top three biggest takeaways you want people to know about what you do and your messaging and where your heart is?
I think for the parents, it's keeping the phones out of the bedroom. I've had thousands of these stories come to me at this point, and I ask two questions. What happened? When did it happen? They're always something horrible. And 75% of the time, it's after the parents have gone to bed. The kid is in their room with this piece of technology connected to the internet. And that's when they send a nude photo to their boyfriend or girlfriend. It's when they access pornography. It's when they see a sleeping pill that might not actually be a sleeping pill. It's when, they want attention and that predator is happy to give them that attention, or now these AI chatbots will give them, freely give them that attention and affirmation. So that's the first thing. And I think too, it sounds obvious, but just making sure that the kids can come talk to the parents, like that this conversation is happening consistently in the home, because so many of these kids will come up to me after my speech and say, tell me the worst thing. And then I've never told anybody this before. And, they don't want to lose their iPhone. They don't want to lose access to Snapchat. And they also look at their parents and think, well, my dad doesn't know anything about TikTok. My mom doesn't know anything about Roblox. So I'm navigating this world alone. And in some ways, they kind of are, because so many parents, at least in my view, have they're so involved in every other aspect of their child's life. But when it comes to this thing that is the conduit to all of those other bad things, they're not very engaged in it. And I'm having a hard time figuring out why. When I first started out 8 years ago, a parent not knowing that social media is a danger to a child, I think was fair. You mentioned your kids are in their 20s. That was fair when they were 14 and they got a phone for you to not know. But if in 2025, you're a parent of a teenager and you don't know that it's dangerous, you have to live under a rock, right? There's books that have sold millions of copies. There's documentaries. There's a news article every day. And so most people know it's dangerous. But yet, I go speak to 3rd to 5th graders. There's more kids who have phones today than there was 7 or 8 years ago. And so then it's okay, this isn't a problem of knowledge. This is a problem, in my view, of courage, right? We have this information, but we're not charting a different path forward. And I think parents feel well, if I don't give my kids access to it and everybody else does, then my kid, will miss out on things. And so I would say those are the top two things for parents. And then for kids, I really just challenge them to be the change. I share my own story, and it's hey, maybe you didn't know that your words matter, even if they're said behind the comfort of a screen, or, that and just pretty openly acknowledging you haven't had the greatest role models ever when it comes to this stuff, and meaning they've grown up watching politicians and celebrities and athletes hiding behind the comfort of screens, saying things that they themselves would never say. And so I try to leave them with a message of empowerment of you can change this, even though you may have not had the greatest role models, or you've been involved in some of these things before. You can make the decision today. And it's, challenging them to hold themselves to a high standard in everything that they do, including video games and phones and on social media.
Yeah, you're right in that people get brave behind it. We call them keyboard warriors, right? Or keyboard badass. A lot of times it's that. But a friend of mine, God rest his soul, Phil Valentine, used to always talk about he would tell, he has 3 boys, and he would tell them all, if you post it on the internet, it is forever. Mm-hmm. End of story. There's no, so just careful what you post anywhere, no matter what you're feeling, anger, sadness, happiness, whatever. Just know once you post it. And obviously you found out real quick.
Well, when I think along with that too is remembering for the parents, the administrators, it's okay, just because there wasn't a screenshot feature when you were 14 doesn't mean that it didn't happen, doesn't mean that you didn't say it. And it's every day some parent is thank God there was no social media when I was a teenager. I wouldn't be doing whatever job it is that I'm doing. But it's oh, well, then when the kid messes up, it's we just punish them so severely, and they do feel like they can't outrun it. And that's where some of the mental health stuff and the anxiety, and it's it's not a fair standard of what is there actually especially, I mean, in the worst of the worst cases, like you make a threat of violence against a school. Okay, that's very serious. I get that. But it's like a kid makes a inappropriate joke, I don't think should like be kicked out of his school, or like, I mean, he should be able to move beyond that. And so, I mean, I think that's big picture. One of the things that I really stress as well, it's like if we're going to give them this tech, which clearly we're doing, we should also give them like grace and forgiveness and ability to move beyond their mistakes that we all would have made and did had we had the same tech at that age. Like, and I tell parents, like, they don't become adults because we give them an adult tool, and expecting them to act like an adult is ridiculous and insane.
Yeah, well said. To your point on parents not knowing social media is a danger, and you said you've got to be living under a rock. I agree 100%. Everybody knows it's a danger. I think, like, for me anyway, just speaking for myself, it's the unknown, right? There's so much that I don't know, right? It's just so much knowledge that I don't have. It can feel a little intimidating. Like, where do I start? As far as and that's why I think the Haven side of things that you come up with is, I mean, that's huge. Like, I'll probably be subscribing today, to be honest with you, just because I need a resource for that. I lean on my own kid, who's, again, she's a great kid and straight A student, just all the things. But she's still a kid. She's still going to mess up, and she has, not a ton, but I mean, I'm counting on her to tell me things. And really, I need to take some more initiative to educate myself. Because to your point, if you just look on the internet for like advice, it's freaking all over the place.
You can get any advice that you want. And
yeah, totally. And I mean, even with our thing, like the most well-known like nonprofit is this one called Common Sense Media, and you look at who funds it, and it's the Bezos Foundation, the Zuckerberg Foundation, and the Gates Foundation. It's like, I don't know which team they're. You know what I mean? It's like, look, I mean, at least you give the appearance that you might be a little bit biased towards the companies, right? I mean, if that's who's paying your bills, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know which team they're on, but I know which team I'm on, and it's the schools and the families of the children that were on the back of that RV.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, well, it's fascinating, not just your story, but what kind of where you've taken it, because there's a lot of people that would take a situation like that and feel sorry for themselves and do the woe is me and go find another job and just kind of stick your head in the sand. And of course, that's not your personality at all. As we found out, right?
A little determination.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, but I think what you've done with it is incredible. Not just to use your story, but to empower other people. And what we do, because you came and sat through a training session, and really you and I are both after the same thing, and that's empowering people to help themselves.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when bad things happen, whether it's on social media or violence or whatever else, I'm not going to be there. You're not going to be there, right? So all we can do is give people tools to help themselves. And I think obviously it's a testament to your growth that your messaging is great. I still have not been able to sit in on one of your talks, and I really, really want to do that still.
We've got a few coming up in this area, so we'll make that happen. But I did sit in on yours, and I just want to say, I mean, it was great, and it was 4 hours long, and I felt like going into it, was like, man, maybe I'll leave at 2 hours, Because I just want to check it out. And then even 4 hours, like, wow, this thing could have been longer. And it's like, I just felt like I gained so much out of this. And I sent an email to my list, as I've got a list of like 10,000 school administrators, and I sent it out and said, hey, I don't have any financial relationship with this at all. I get nothing out of this. I just think it was great. It was actually after the Minneapolis school shooting. I'd been sitting with it for a few months, like this was great. Maybe there's a way that we can share this. And it's like after that happened, and I've done a few schools in the Minneapolis diocese, and so it's like I just want to send this out. Because I thought it was great. And, now even me going in these schools, I notice the things that you talk about, and I'll point them out and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? You should call these guys, and they can help you with that. And so I love what you guys do. And I thought it was great.
Well, thanks. And I appreciate you giving up your time. We get that a lot. Like we have people say, like, I can only stay for the first part and then they're there for the whole time. And we talked about this off air. It's a hard sell for us because of the time commitment that we're asking from people. But we're told at the end always that they either want more of this or more of that, or it goes by really quickly. Obviously not for us because we're yapping the whole time. But it's like, when you ask people then, what would you take out? I don't know. I mean, it's all important. So,
I think too, I mean, I've sat through another one, just how well researched you were on every single, going through all the different places tragically that this has happened. Well, this is what happened. This, you could tell like you've really done, your homework on this. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that I was most impressed by. Like, it seems like you have went through all these, like almost like frame by frame.
Yeah.
He has.
Yeah. I'm a total
literal
research data nerd.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the answers are, right? Let's be real. And it's what we've, as you said to the training, that's where we failed repeatedly, is to take the lessons learned and apply them moving forward. Because we're never going to stop all these things ever, but we can mitigate 90% of the damage if we properly train the people in the event. And, I personally, but my whole team feels this way, I'll speak for them too, feel like we owe it to every victim to be better at this, like, and to improve and to learn something. If a life was lost, then it's incumbent upon the rest of us to learn something from that and to help moving forward. And so, obviously, again, our heart's in the same place, and that we're tired of people dying unnecessarily, and we're tired of tragedy and heartache and heartbreak and all the things, and people being scared to go to school, and to your point, people being intimidated based on just the social pressure just all the things that kids and parents and everybody, the society is up against. Let's be real. I mean, evil is real at the end of the day. Like it or not, it's real. And so there's something that can be done about it. And I think we're both, mission-wise, we're about as aligned as we can get as far as helping people with that. So with that, I really appreciate you coming on today and telling your story and talking more about what you do. I find it fascinating. I can't wait. I'm going to bring the whole team to come hear I know it's going to be good. I could tell the first time I sat down with you.
Thank you.
That you know what you're talking about, and that I can already tell you just by personality-wise that your delivery is going to be great too. So I can't wait to hear it. So if people want to get in touch with you or find you, what are the best ways for people to do that? Yeah,
safesocialnetwork.com for speaking engagements, and the parent education platform called Haven is usehavensafety.com.
Okay. Social media? You're on all of it?
Yeah. Yep.
Is there one in particular?
Ben J. Tracy is the personal one. Everything will kind of funnels through that. And then Haven Online Safety for Facebook and Instagram for that as well.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, thanks for being here and sharing your story. Guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. If you have show ideas, guest ideas, or you just want to leave a comment, feedback, ratings are also very helpful. You can obviously do that on all the various podcast platforms, but you can also reach out to us at info@tipstacticstools.com.
I'm out.